All right. So another really exciting day today here. Today I have Tyler from the Haven Barber Shop down in town. So you're a business owner right here in town. Tyler Carlson, right?
Yep.
So there you go. So actually a Wilmington I graduate too.
Yeah. Class of 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
So going back. So you just had your 10-year. That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely was excited to bring you on today. This is one of the ones I've been waiting for because I have been in your shop every other week for the last few years. And so I get to know you, the guys, and I've been able to watch. And in fact, one of the reasons why I was so excited about this is me and you actually have a very, very similar path of our timelines of when we started, when we got going. So when did you actually open your shop?
So I opened in November of 2018.
Okay. So
Yeah.
right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
You had it nice, right?
Yeah, I got about a year in before.
Now I'll never forget. So 2018, that's right around when I moved into town. So I got to, had to get to know, a new barber and stuff. And I'll never forget the first time coming to your shop. Now the power was out on Main Street and you guys had a pickup truck because you were halfway through two of the haircuts.
Yep,
you had a pickup truck with the headlights blaring into the shop. And I'm like, that looks like the spot. And they're dedicated to the cause, right? And so I remember going in there, and I think one of the first things that stuck out at me was very quickly, I think, and this is big for me and anywhere I'm a patron, is that you guys love what you do, right? And so one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is you're a young entrepreneur in town, and you love what you do. And that's very clear to me through everything I see you doing out there, whether it be managing, all sorts of different aspects of the business, whether it be the social media, the actual payroll, the people, your own share, which you take pride in. You're very much an accomplished barber on your own. So I think that, to me, people ask sometimes. So I think, I consider myself a hustler in our industry, my industry, much like I see you as. And the reason being is I think because I love what I do, it's never really a hustle. And it's really hard to compete with somebody in an industry that loves what they do because they're never working. They're always doing what they love. And for me, I think me and you share that passion. Now, I ended up in Domshire. So I'm in Domshire at the shop, but you're right next door. And I remember that. I remember you guys you care about products. You go to conventions. So talk more on that. So what brought you to barbering? Like, where did this all come about? How did that start?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for all that. It's incredible that we were able to maintain you as a client after that first interaction.
I thought they're dedicated,
Yeah. Power went out, pulled up some trucks and shined light in, and we got it done,
That's it.
Phone flashlights on haircuts.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, man. I mean, I've been cutting hair since I was 14 when I first picked it up. Yeah. Just kind of,
what made you think I want to pick up a pair of scissors and do this?
It was like, so I remember it was the summer, and one of my friends it was like when he was the first one to start growing facial hair, right? And this is when like chin straps were cool. That horrible time. Yeah. And I was like, so it was before he was like going to have a party. It was like the big party to kick off the summer.
Okay.
And he wanted to have a chin strap for it. And I was like, I think I could do it. Like, my grandmother had a pair of trimmers that she used to do my grandfather's goatee, and
maroon, like old school ones.
The wall peanut actually is literally shaped like a peanut. Yeah. And so I was like, I think I could do it. So I run home and I grab the peanut and I go back and I give him this chin strap, and it's horrible.
Awful.
Like absolutely horrible. I can send
Not
you a
that a
picture
good one-
so we can show it if you want.
Right, we should throw that up. But not that a good one looks good anyway. So like, you're really you're up against the odds with that.
Yeah,
So
really
you did
bad.
a nice bad chin strap for your friend.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that was kind of fun, And then he's like, do you want to just cut my hair too while you're at it? And I was like, all right, sure.
After you did the bad chin strap?
You did the bad chin strap, and he's like, this
cut
looks
my
great.
hair next.
Yeah. So I just threw a 2-guard on a trimmer, which is crazy, and just went over his whole head with a trimmer and just did the whole haircut. And again, it looked horrendous, but at the time I was like, I'm the man. I just killed that,
So
Like,
for us reference, because I got a little bit of an idea just because I did grow up with a bunch of boys, and I believe what you just gave him was a 2 all-around wiffle.
Yeah,
just straight,
much, yeah.
Same distance all around everything. So yeah, that was like, that's like those summer haircuts to just pretty much cool you off.
Right.
So you killed it though.
Yeah,
that was the moment.
At the moment I thought so.
But in a way, that haircut leads to a pretty good career, right? So in a way.
Yeah,
You
and
nailed it.
I just kept rolling with it, and I started doing it, and then I was like, started charging like $5 for haircuts, and was just trying to make a little money, and yeah, just watching YouTube and just trying to learn, and I kind of felt like all throughout high school I didn't really feel like I wanted to go to college. I wasn't like, I was good in school, but it wasn't really anything that like really clicked for me.
Right.
And I just really enjoyed cutting hair, and then I started going to the barbershop every week and getting my hair cut. And I just like loved the environment. I loved that it was like just a cool place that people were kind of hanging out in, and like, no one ever seemed upset working in a barbershop, right? So
it's
I was
a pretty
like,
cool place.
Yeah, so I'm like,
Barbershop setting.
that's what I want to do. So I just went for it and went to barber school right after high school, and just started the career, and yeah.
That's so cool. So I love the Wilmington roots right at home.
Yep.
You thought, I can do this right here. Don't need the student loans, get around that because you had a passion. And like I said, I can't hop on that enough. We couldn't do more different things in our careers, but what I love going to your shop is the passion of what you guys do. Like when it comes to haircuts and hair and talking, like you said, you watch YouTube videos. Now talk more about that. You get more in depth. You go to conventions and stuff, I found out. Just like we do for our field. Like you really do believe in the entire field and what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I am a barber, I'm a barbershop owner, but I'm also a hair educator.
Which is big, mentorship and teaching young guys. I've noticed that's a big part of what you do, which resonates with me, is like, it's always about the next guy too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I really want to be a part of the change in the industry. I want to, and we can kind of get into all that. But just to kind of like answer your question there, yeah, like I go to all the different conventions and stuff, and that started as just going because I was interested, and then I started working with a product company, a local company, Uplift Provisions Co. And so now I go with them, and we travel and educate, and and just always kind of trying to be better and trying to learn more. And so actually what kind of sparked me opening the shop was in July of 2018. I actually went to England, and I took a course out there that was like
so cool,
because they're kind of like setting all the trends. You know what I mean? Like anything that happens here already happened in England 6 months, a year ago.
With hair and stuff?
With hair, with fashion, with all of it.
Okay,
yeah.
so that's good to know. So Europe's ahead of us on a lot of things. Okay,
so
understandably.
They were kind of like leading the way, and there was this company, Menspire, and this guy, Josh LaMonica, and I'm like, this guy's the most impressive haircutter I've ever seen. Like, I want to work with him. So, again, I just kind of said, all right, I'm going to do it. So I just I was, 22 at the time, like just turned 22, and I just flew over to England and by myself and took a week-long course, and it literally changed my life. Like, it changed my entire life. It changed my career, my whole perspective. And I came back and started working back in the shop that I was at before I opened mine for a week, and I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. Like, it was a great shop, but it's just like, it was so different. And I was like, I want to do what I just did out there. I want to bring this here. Like, we need this.
So you immediately knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
You went there, knew what you wanted to bring back, went to the shop, spent a week there, and knew it wasn't that.
Yeah, it just changed my entire perspective on hair, on the industry, on business, on all of it.
So let's go back, because that diving board moment right there is really, so we keep resonating on the ideas and the feelings we have as mutual entrepreneurs, even though we're in different industries. But that is it right there, is like, that moment, that feeling, like, you knew it, you had it, and that drives passion. Like, so like, you took that and you ran with it. And, that's a diving board moment. And that's why I bring that up, is because a lot of times, and we have this in common, that's I just kind of did it. I just got on the plane. And there's so many times where I can look back and relate on that. It's just, there's so many times where it wasn't like I needed to accomplish the whole goal. I just needed to start it by getting on a plane or just taking the dive, right? Yeah. And that's a common thread between us, is like, you're not afraid to jump, see what the next curve is, see what the next, bend is, what's the new cutting edge tool. So that's cool that this trip to Europe and England is really what inspired you to come back and start the shop, and so quickly inspired you with the dream, because within a week you knew you had hit a limit where you were at. You had boxed yourself into an area and you knew you'd need growth. And that's a huge thing in entrepreneurship, is like, I need to get out there and do this. So immediately from there, you transitioned to knowing you wanted your own shop right then and there.
Not necessarily. Like, I think, I'm a big intuition guy,
right?
And I think, like, listening to that, and so, something told me, like, just go out there, do this. Like, it's gonna be worth it, and I did. And like I said, it literally changed my life. But yeah, I came back, and And again, kind of like an intuition thing where I just kind of got back in the shop and I'm like implementing all these new things and these new techniques. And I just was kind of like, this isn't right. Like I need something else. I don't really know what it is, but I know I need something. So I actually like started looking around to other shops and trying to see if there was anything in the area. Like I think I always knew that I was going to open a shop, but it certainly wasn't then. Like that wasn't the plan.
The timing of it.
Yeah, not at all. Like
forced timing.
So I was just trying to find
another common thread.
Yeah, I was just trying to find something that like felt more aligned with where I was at. And I was supposed to interview with this shop that I respect a lot, and like right before that, I ended up getting a call that the shop I have now, the previous owner was trying to sell it. It was like, an old guy. He'd been here forever.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, I know that shop. I'm like, it's right in Wilmington. That'd be really cool to open a shop in my hometown. And yeah. And I was like, I'm like, all right, I'll go have the conversation. And so we talk and ended up, working out a deal. And so I came back. That was like the last week of July that I was in England. I came back first week of August, had a conversation, and then September 1st I signed my lease. Incredible. So it was like literally 1 month from when I got back, it just happened. And then I'm like, all right, well now I'm gutting and building out a shop and going through and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm 22 years old.
So let's get there because you don't. But all right, so right now you've touched on there was just something not there in the other shops, and then you went looking for it. You didn't quite see it. So you just said it. You gutted the shop, and then you built it, and then you said, I don't know what I was doing, but you just did it. But that's one of the things before we got on the mic today, I actually started talking about the feng shui and the feeling of the shop is one of it's very clean aesthetic. It's very minimalist. It's very there. It's very, I love it because it expresses to me a lot of what you're about. Like you get a great product. It's very clean. It's very efficient. It's an expression of your business. So in a way, how did that shop and the design and all that, like how did that all come about? Is that overnight or is that multiple changes over the years? And I know you've actually also battled COVID during this too, which was tough for you guys, right?
So I mean, it started out as a 3-chair shop. That's what I bought it as. Yep. But yeah, we fully gutted like everything down. And then, as far as like designing it goes, I knew I was going to keep the 3 chairs, so that's what I had space for.
Right.
But I kind of knew like little bits and pieces. Like I knew that I wanted like the vanity lighting on the mirrors, right? I knew I wanted that. I knew the chairs that I wanted. I knew I wanted like the granite countertops. Like, so there were a couple pieces, but then it was kind of like, all right, designing the layout and then starting to think about like the feeling, right? And like how I want people to feel when they're in the shop. And the feeling that I want is I want people to be calm and relaxed. And I want them to, I want them when they're in our space to kind of like, just like let everything go, right? Like this is supposed to be, that's why I named it Haven, right? It's like, it's supposed to be an escape. It's supposed to be a place for people to come to and relax and forget about whatever they have going on in their lives and just be about them for 45 minutes or whatever.
See, I could never put my finger on it before, but that's it right there. And I tell Dom, I tip him well because he's like an extra therapist. But that hour you get in there, you get relaxed, and it is a haven. And that's a good way to put it. Like the lighting, I do love the lighting. I never realized that's what it was on the mirrors.
Yeah, so it was the lighting, and then it's just even like the color schemes where it's like, it's hard because now I feel like you look around in a lot of like newer shops and everyone's kind of doing the same thing.
Right.
So it feels a little like it doesn't mean anything, but it did at the time. It did. At the time, it was intentional. It was like, let's look into color theory, right? And let's look at what colors invoke which emotions, right? I knew like red, I didn't want a speck of red in that shop, right? Because red is like, it's like anger, it's high energy, it's like, we don't want any of that, right? So, but the calming, the grays and blues and a little touch of like greenery from plants, and that was kind of the thought behind it to invoke that.
So that transitions us perfectly into the next aspect of this, because as an entrepreneur, as a young business owner, you just started talking about the paint schemes. And so you're a barber, but we know, and I'm a loan officer, but as a barber and a loan officer, like we need to know marketing, you need to know people, you need to know interactions, you need to know relationships. Like you just said, you need to know paint colors and things like terminology of our industry. You need to stay up on the cutting edge. You need to know things like the sentence you just said with, at one point we were far ahead of everybody else, but you kind of see it everywhere. just to know that about your industry is a telltale sign that you're staying up on what's happening today. But it involves so much. It involves everything from payroll to hiring to management. And I know you mentor, teach. How do you balance all that as the business owner while still maintaining the focus of your passion, which is actually cutting hair, right? Because this is where I get kind of thrown off sometimes. I find it that I'm only spending a very small proportion of my time actually doing the loan officer aspect, which is the part I loved. When you're building the business around it, you're doing all the other aspects, you know? So how do you balance all that? And where do you're kind of like any entrepreneur, or you're a renaissance man with it all. Like, where do you get your talents on that? How do you figure that stuff out? Or do you just learn as you go?
Yeah. I mean, how do you balance it all? I don't know that I do.
Exactly. As any business owner said, right?
You know, this is actually a piece of content that I was just working on, but essentially it's like concept of like, I think balance is BS, right? Like, I think that I don't really believe in balance. I believe in seasons, right? So I think like, I don't think balance can exist when you're trying to build something bigger than yourself and when you're trying to really accomplish something important. I think you have to be all in. But I think that I believe in seasons where it's like, I have seasons where I'm completely locked into certain aspects of the business and maybe I'm neglecting sleep or friendships or relationships or, you know, or myself. Right. And I'm trying to be better about that because ultimately, like, I think that's a super important piece too to all of this is like taking care of yourself and being able to put yourself first. 'Cause I think we get very like one track mind and we're very focused on what we're doing, but ultimately like, none of what I do is going to function optimally if I'm not in a good place with myself. So that's like making sure that I'm still working out and eating right and sleeping and just taking time for myself. Self-care. And, but yeah, I mean, trying to balance it all, like, yeah, it's a lot, right? Like it's, we're wearing a lot of hats, we're doing a lot of things. But there's a quote that I love that's, I'm probably going to botch it, but it's like something along the lines of like, what a blessing it is to be tired in the pursuit of a challenge that you chose, right? Where it's like, yeah, like it's exhausting, it's overwhelming, I'm tired a lot of the times, but like, what a blessing to be tired trying to chase something that I believe in so deeply, right? And something that I'm so passionate about. And that's kind of like the piece of it that helps with that, where it's like, I know that there's not going to be balance, but it's like, I know that I'm going to have these seasons where, yeah, I'm super into marketing and trying to like fill the shop with clients. Right. And we do that. And then we get there and it's like, okay, let's let that coast for a bit. And now let's really get into like our education. Let's get better. Right. Like let's build our team up. Let's get better. Now let's start hiring. Right now. All right. I got to put a little more effort into my own efforts behind the chair. So yeah, it's a lot, you know, and it is. And as far as like how do you figure it out? Like, yeah, you just kind of figure it out along the way because you don't have any other choice. Right. What is my option? It's either I figure it out or I fail. So
I love this.
And I kind of love that. I kind of love like, I think if you have any real level of like an entrepreneurial spirit, I think you do your best work when your back's against the wall.
100%.
I think like when you have no option and you got to figure it out.
You got to feed the kid down the hall. You'll figure it out.
You're going to figure it out, you know? And that's kind of what I've done. But I also think it's like, having like a never-ending desire of learning, right? Like and now
that goes back to you love what you do. It's never work.
Yeah.
And that allows you to do this. It's an incredible amount of work. And like you said, it's not just the work, but sustaining it in seasons. So how long would a season last for you? Could you go a year or two and just locked in and just do something like this and just...
Yeah. I mean, you know, I had the first, I don't know, 3 years that I was open. Like I didn't take a vacation for like 3 years.
But that's why you got to where you got to.
Yeah.
And that's why when someone says, yeah, oh, it must be nice. It is. But those are those comments. When you hear that comment that, it must be nice. It literally triggers all those memories of all those missteps and feels and all those late night tries and all those other things. And you just laugh. You're like, oh yeah.
Right.
They have no idea. But that goes back to, I love what I do. So it's easier for me to get up and miss every day when I love just getting up and doing it, as opposed to somebody that will burn out if they don't love what they're doing. But you talked about something super important, because I agree with you. There are times where I sacrifice certain areas. It's just the only way, unfortunately, sometimes it gets done, right? If I find a better way in the future, I'll share that on the show.
Please.
And I would love to know it, but a lot of us entrepreneurs share that. We do have terrible. But not at a cost of ourselves, because like you said, if I don't have it, I can't give it.
Yeah.
So if I don't have my basic health, like things like the gym, eating healthy, sleeping right, these are things I've noticed affect my professional life wholeheartedly, because like you said, I'm trying to wear multiple hats and not always knowing what I'm doing. Just to wear a hat sometimes takes a lot more energy than I would, prefer, because I'm sitting there in a totally unknown field. So I think that's big that so the maintaining of weirdly an entire life that it's got to all kind of go together. It's all connected.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Like
100%.
From everything from your health to your food is connected to your business, right?
Yeah. I was just talking about this the other day. I think that it's everything bleeds into everything else.
Right.
And it's honestly, it's just like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Right.
Agreed. Right.
So it's like, I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
You have a successful business. You're probably going to be successful.
I think if you want,
right?
I think if you want
Right.
to be great, that's how you have to be. I think that anybody that's like really successful, I think that, and of course there's always outliers, but I think that if you look at most like really successful people, most of them are in shape. Most of them take care of themselves. Most of them have good relationships, right? They have like a strong partner behind them, because that's really what a lot of this takes, is like being able to have someone that understands it and can support you in that.
There's a lot of sacrifice,
especially during those
right?
seasons, right? Because I'm sure for you,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of times where you've had to sacrifice time with your wife and your kid, and I know that's really hard.
I think that's when it gets actually a lot more hard. So I know the season you're in, because I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted you on the show, is like I've recognized where you're at 10 years before me, or a little younger, just bought your first condo and stuff, doing really well. Like, and I thought about that, like there are different challenges. So whereas my business might not have as many of the, earlier day challenges, because I'm a little bit later in that.
Yeah.
Now I have to balance a kid into that mix. So throw in having a little bit more comfort on some of those hats, then throw in a new hat, fatherhood or marriage, like you said, where these are things, and a kid not so much at the beginning understands, but yes, you need an understanding partner. If you're going to lock in on seasons, you're going to need somebody that understands that this is a common goal, it's for us, and that there's going to be time that you both sacrifice together. And I think that's one of the more difficult aspects of this, is once you start having to balance that. It's a little bit different than, when I'm in my 20s and I don't get 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
It's a little different than not being able to see your son before dinner. That's different. So that is a different season, but all of it's balance. And again, I think with each of these new things, you said you just have to figure it out, especially with things like fatherhood is one of those things where you're going to figure it out on the spot, because you don't have a choice.
Yeah, no one can prep you for that, right? Like, I'm sure,
No.
Everyone gave you advice.
They
I'm
do.
sure you read books and took classes and whatever, but ultimately, like, stuff gets thrown at you and you're like, I don't know, we just figured this out, and you're going to learn from it, And
along with that, and taking advice, and I actually can utilize this both in my life and in business, and when it comes to parenting, is like what everybody always, when they give advice and say something, then they always end with, well, each kid's different. Just like my business is different than your business, and each business is different, each kid's different, each situation's different. So there's going to be different approaches we need to take at different levels, which is funny, because thinking back on my entrepreneurial ways, you said it, like there'll be times where we have to problem solve, right? And I'll have two situations, maybe 2 years apart, same business, same problem, and I'll have to attack them completely different ways. Yeah. And that's part of being an entrepreneur, is like not getting dead set, or I think having this new experience is fatherhood, marriage, right? Balancing the businesses. One thing I've noticed is that nothing ever is complacent. That's one rule, is nothing ever stays the same. I can't let it stay the same. I have to stay on the bend, right? I have to stay on the cutting edge. It's my pride. Like, you do it. I noticed that, because we talked about some of the products you have in your shop and stuff like that. I noticed like we're always trying new things, and I'm trying new things. And then like you're staying up on, like you said, Britain seems to be 6 months ahead of us. I have an idea that you probably know what's going on in Britain right now, right? And you know what's going on in Europe. And I think that's what, Tyler could be the best businessman in town today, but what about tomorrow, right? And that involves you staying up on and being adaptable and changeable and not getting stuck in your ways. And when you find success, that's one of the hardest things, is not when I find something that doesn't work and having to change it. It's when I find something that does work and then getting set on it. And like, let's say it works really well for a couple of years because of the time period. And then maybe I have to adapt and totally adjust, even though it's something almost like a golden handcuff, like it's working well. Like, for instance, you might have a barber that's working out well financially in the shop, but years down the line, if you're trying to do something different, it might not fit the direction of the shop or something like that, and have nothing to do with the income base, right? So, I mean, you're making good money off it. It just, as I grow and mature in my business, sometimes, what I've noticed is a lot of decisions at the beginning were very black and white. Like you said, they were very financial based, overhead. I had to worry about feng shui, things like that. But nowadays it's like, well, you said it. Well, now that we have the chance, okay, things are moving. Everything's kind of working on all cylinders. Now what do? We'll improve the system, improve the situation, like go back and figure out where we can make, like you said, once the shop's hitting, you got a full calendar of people coming in. At that point, your bookings are out, start educating again, start getting better at what we do. That drive, that passion will never end inside of me. It's a passion. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we share it because like that fire is my driving motivation. And I don't know what tomorrow leads, but I'm excited whatever my industry shows. Like I know you have a lot. So talk about that. What are you guys doing? What does the future of barbering look like? What have you seen change? Like what does change? So I talk about the golden age sometimes in Dom's share. We at one point got shaved every day. So at some point in human history, there was a day where I would see you every morning to get a shave. That's a different era of barbering. Now it's a different era. What do you see for the future? What do you see now? Like, what does that all look like?
Yeah. Well, before I answer that, one piece on what we were just talking about is I think what's really cool about this is that, we've talked a lot about like passion, right? And like, yeah, my passion is cutting hair, but as things have grown, like I'm so passionate now about the business side of things, right? The more that I learn, the more I want to get better because it's new, it's exciting, right? It's something different. Like, so I love being an educator. I love being a mentor. I love just like running the back end of the business. Like that's stuff that's exciting because honestly, I sucked at it. Like I didn't know what I was doing.
But you got better.
So I wanted to get better at it. And so I just kept learning. I got better. And like now that's what I'm more passionate. I kind of am more passionate about that right now than I am cutting hair. As much as I always have that and I always want to cut hair, but it's like I love building the business and I love that side of it. And I love being able to like create opportunities for my team and just for other people to succeed and show the path. And that kind of segues into your next question, which is like, what does the future look like? Well, I'm trying to be a part of the change in that right now. I want to be able to.
That's the best answer.
I mean, dude, the barber industry is like really, it's interesting.
Yes.
Like it's very, historically, it's been very like.
How so? Like, what do you mean interesting?
It's been very, just kind of like unstructured, unprofessional, very like, it's kind of like the Wild West. Right. You know what I mean? Like there's just no.
Like some guy in an Ohio corner can be totally different than a Massachusetts
corner.
Yeah,
and it's just like, there's not a ton of knowledge as far as like business structure and planning and finances and all of these things. And so everyone's just kind of like winging it because we have no choice, right? Like this is like, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. It's a great book.
I'll have to read that.
It's a great book. But essentially the premise of that is like, in a business, you have your entrepreneur, you have your managers, and you have your technicians, right? The ones doing the work. So like all small businesses, like trade, especially in the trades, you have a technician, right? So for me, it's barber who has like what he calls an entrepreneurial seizure, right? And you decide to open a business. And it's like, okay, you do that, but like
what about
you don't know how to manage, you don't know how to be an entrepreneur because you're a technician.
Right.
So then all of a sudden now you're doing all three things and you have no idea what you're doing. And it's like, this is why most small businesses fail, right? Because statistically they do. And so my whole thing is like trying to do things the right way, trying to gain ultimately like the respect for the industry. Because I think that there's a lot of, the hair industry as a whole is kind of weird. Like there's a lot of people that kind of look at it as like, kind of just like a side hustle, right? Like it's not super serious, not really a career, right? Like it's either something you do. I just made a video about this too. Like you have people, the amount of times that people over the course of my career have been like, oh, so what else do you do? And it's like,
as in like nothing. You needed a second career.
This is my career, right? Like this
isn't
like a side job. This isn't like a part-time job, you know? But that's because, but people feel that way because that's how the industry as a whole has represented ourselves. Like the industry as a whole for a long time has acted more like drug dealers and less like business owners. Right. Where it's like, it's a cash business and we're not claiming taxes and we're like,
let's talk on that for a second. Yeah. Actually, I want to touch on that because something I've noticed when you advertise for your shop, right? And I am a loan officer. So the worst possible borrower in the city for you, it's always been a running joke, is the barber, right? Because you guys talk to
exactly
everybody.
What I'm talking about.
Right? You talk to everybody. Yeah. So you have everybody in share for a half hour of time and you pay nothing in taxes, meaning I can't get a loan for you.
Yeah.
So that's always been the one we've always been. But lately, I've done your shop, I've done you guys. You guys all report. So W-2, and not to put that a blast in the public, but so
No,
I've
okay.
noticed that though, that you offer, like, you're like, hey, W-2, starting salaries, things like that, which is stuff that I would see more starting out at the bank than I would at a barbershop, because I would think you rent a chair for me, yada, 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 because I know there's a lot of different setups and stuff. You kind of do it differently though. You believe in giving the kid a chance at actually making a career.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm getting at with that, where it's like, it's a lot of the industry is just kind of that like chair rent model, which again, like, I'm not trying to knock how anybody does anything. Like, there's multiple different ways to be successful, right? But like, the problem is what that creates is it creates kind of like a every person for themselves mentality, right?
They're all
it's
individual
like, if you're renting a chair, it's like, well, dude, I'm sorry, but I owe, like, if I'm a barber in a chair rent shop, like, I come in, I start my week in the red, right? Like, I owe money to the shop. So I need to hustle, and I need to make my money so that I can pay my bills and pay my chair rent, whatever. I don't want the industry to be like that. I don't want my brand to be like that. I have it set up to where, they get a guaranteed base pay. So even if they don't cut a single person, they're going to make X amount of dollars that week, right? Because it's scary to leave a shop that you're already busy at to come to a new shop not really knowing if you'll be busy. You don't know if your clients will follow you. You don't know if the shop's even busy, because a lot of times we say we're busy, but we're really not. Like, so it's that, and then it's also being able to offer benefits, right? So
that's wild.
Like,
because this isn't a job. I think this is like a waitress job, like a cash job, right?
Exactly.
So I
and
think
that's
of it
exactly
that way,
how it's
right?
always been.
And you want to break that.
That's what I
mentality,
mean when I say I want to change that, because it doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
Barbers can work a 40-hour week on a W-2 where they're not paying self-employment tax. They can make a great living. They can get retirement. They can get paid vacation. Right. Like,
that's
can have all of
you
these
offer
things.
benefits to these kids, like full W-2. That's incredible.
Yeah, and that's where I want to see the industry go, because ultimately what's happened is we're at a fork in the road right now in the industry where the individualism is at an all-time high, because we have like these salon suites that pop up everywhere, right? And you can just rent a chair, or you can just go open a small little shop and do it just by yourself, right? So like, a lot of people are at that fork in the road where they're choosing the individualism, and it's like, again, I don't knock anyone for doing that, because I get it. Like, I get wanting to just do your own thing, but I think a lot of people choose that path not because they're meant to be an entrepreneur, but because they just don't want to deal with kind of the BS on this side, where it's like, okay, yeah, I can go work in a shop and on a commission shop or whatever, but they don't really give me anything. I'm categorized wrong, so I'm a 1099 instead of a W-2, so I'm paying self-employment tax. Like, that whole mess, right? Like, that's the stuff that I would love to see just go away in this industry, because this is the piece that's going to ultimately make us more respected as a whole. Like, if we run this like a real business and not just like a side hustle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference to me. So
that legitimacy gives you guys the ability to also, a lot more young kids can look at it as a career path and say, hey, this is a route I can take.
Yeah, and like the fact that, like, and not to put anyone's like personal details out, but it's like, my team are both, you're talking with them in the process of buying homes. Right. Like, that's such an honor for me. That makes me really proud, right? Because they did the work, right? But it's like the fact that we were able to create something together where they're able to, because for a lot of barbers, that doesn't happen. Unless you marry somebody who has a great salary and has benefits and all this stuff, like, barbers aren't getting that. They got a bunch of money stuffed under their mattress, but that doesn't help when they come to you to try to get a mortgage. No, right? And when this shop came to me and all you guys, like, I really have had no issues whatsoever, because everybody's legitimately paid and everything. It's great. And yeah, I got to be honest, to see, these aren't the shop owners either, to see other, like, that's a really cool thing for a barber. Yeah. I got to be honest, that's not something, even at the cookout the other day when I said I got all 3 chairs at the barber shop, like, the guys all got on me like, the barber shop, and they all started laughing. They're like, you're gonna walk away from that? You scared of that? I said, we all started joking. I said, no, it's cards nowadays. That's what the older generation didn't get, all the older guys. Right. I said to them, I was like, we all use our cards now. Like, there's no way, everything's reported, everything's W-2, and they were like, no way. I was like, yep. These kids are all legitimate, right across the board, above water. And so that's an industry change right there. Is partly too is, I think a cash business has kind of gone to the wayside too. Is like, what's a cash business anymore, right? Yeah. Even if you do have what you'd call a cash business, 90% of everything's card. Yeah. Right? Yeah, we do on average, it's about 88% credit cards. There you go. Yeah. So I was just throwing that number out there, 88%. There you go. Yeah. And you know that because you guys got the fees now. That's stuff you have to deal with nowadays. Yeah, and stuff, but that's part of doing business. That's it. You know what I mean? That's all that. Like, I don't think that you can. I don't think that you can sit there and complain about that or be
Right.
like, this is, this sucks that we have to pay. It's like, it's literally part of doing bake it into your cost of your. That's another thing too, is it's just like understanding overhead, general business and overhead, right? Like
it's part of your cost.
Like price of services, price of goods is determined by your overhead, not by what the guy down the street charges, right? Like these are the things that
I've noticed about your shop. I don't actually ask what the going rate is around the area. I know you're pricing it so that my barbers are paid right. And like that, I that's part of why I like going there. Is like, I know. So for instance, like there are certain coffee establishments, we're on a show, I'm not gonna say it, but like I won't go because I don't feel like they treat their employees with enough respect. I don't think they pay them well enough. So I don't patron because I don't believe in that model. Like I think everybody should have a living wage for a 40-hour working week. And that's something I noticed about your shop. Like if my haircut goes up $5, so be it. Eggs are how much right now? So like I look at it that way, is like, and I think if you have a product like yours, because I know from cancellations trying to reschedule, that shop is booked wall to wall, because your product's there and you're not afraid to price it how the product is deservingly priced. Like it's you know your worth and you price it there. And that's something I was taught in business early on. Know your worth and price yourself at that worth, and don't do things cheaper just because somebody wants it cheaper. You know that you're valued at that worth. A big part of it. And then teaching your guys that too.
Right.
Like I'm worth the extra $5 if I have to raise the price of a haircut. I'd rather see that than all of a sudden listen to my barber not being able to make his like rent payment or something, right? You hear stuff like that while you're getting service for somebody, and you're like, that's just not cool.
Yeah.
So,
and honestly, man, it's like, and that is challenging, right? It's challenging to like have the confidence to be able to do that, right? Because it is, you're kind of like, how do people react to these things, and whatever. And obviously you don't want to lose people or whatever, but but ultimately it comes down to like, whenever I teach, it's like, I always say that I'm like, I teach like precision scissor cutting, or I'm sorry, the way I always word it is I say like, I'm teaching you self-belief disguised as precision scissor cutting. Okay. Right? Where it's like confidence. It's like, yes, I'm teaching you how to cut hair better, but I'm teaching you how to believe in yourself. I'm teaching you how to understand that like, you are putting in the effort to get better. You are worth whatever the price is, like, and you need to believe in that. Because if you don't believe in it, no one's going to believe in it.
100%.
If you're not confident charging what you charge, no one else is going to pay for it.
It's going to be confident
and
paying for it.
It's just how it's going to go, right? Yeah. So, and I really, like I said, I really love the business side of it, and it's a lot of what I try to teach. Even my haircuts, my classes where I get booked to just teach hair cutting techniques, I always make sure that we talk business. You just throw it. Even as we're just going, as we're going through, I'm showing technique. I start talking about, do you guys have any retirement accounts set up?
Right.
Do we have this and that? Blah blah blah. How'd you guys dictate pricing? Like whatever, because those are the conversations that always kind of like stop the class. Yeah. And people start,
and then they get every,
and then everyone starts kind of like talking, and we start figuring out, and we start peeling back the layers, and it's like, yeah, see, there's a lot more. I
think you're doing really good for your industry in that. You got to be doing that to the younger groups, and have them. And hey, if you're just asking the question and got their brain going, and they leave the shop and go back and ask their boss, hey, do we get retirements? Maybe it starts something, down the line. Yeah. So I want to talk. So the price and the thing, and you're not afraid to do that. And I think that's important. And one thing I always joke with Dom. He always will show me the back of my head. So I always tell him, I don't have my glasses on when he cuts my hair. So I can't see the mirror. And I tell him that every time. I'm like, I can't see that. But it's, and I say this, I know he's going to show me that mirror. Whether or not I tell him not to every time, because that's his product. And he will not negotiate the product because I say, no, I want less. That's his pride. And I noticed that little mirror move every single time I get my hair cut. I've noticed that is such a sense of pride on him and you and the product and where I am. I don't care. Like I can tell him every time I pretty much tell him, it's okay, Dom. I don't need to see it. I trust that you did a good job. He goes, no, I want to show you. Yeah. And he shows me the back of my head. And every time I think it's a small act of entrepreneurship. Like every time it happens, because I'm like, that's a guy taking pride in his work, who knows his worth, who's been taught that from right down the line. And that's the feel I get at the
it's just in the name of consistency. Right. It's like
that's the product.
That is it, where it's like, if you want to be able to scale anything, it has to be consistent. Right. So my worst fear when opening a barbershop in hiring was like, I don't want to be one of the shops where it's like, hey, go to Haven, but make sure you book with Tyler and not so-and-so because he's terrible, right? Like
they'll be sitting in the chair waiting to skip over. Right.
What is the point, right? Like this isn't about me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't need my ego inflated. I don't want there to be a line of people that only want to book with me and nobody else. Like, my whole mission at this point is like trying to prove like, book with these guys.
Yeah.
I train them all.
Because then I can not show up.
If you think I'm good, they're great. Like, book with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I got put on Dom the first week. I didn't get put on you, and you didn't have a problem with that. I actually thought that was weird. Now that you bring it up, I thought it was odd that I called your shop, called you, was like, hey, I need a barber. You're like, no problem. I got a guy for you.
But it's because I believe in my team so strongly that yeah, you're right. Like, a first-time client, obviously, it's like you want to give them the best, right? So, like, oh, I should take you. But I'm like, no, I believe in my team so strongly that they don't need to book with me.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
They just need to come in because it's a universal product. Like, obviously, we're our own individual people, and it's an art to a degree, so everyone does things a little bit differently. But it's the little things like you said, the mirror, right? Like, where it's like these little details are things that we have systems for so that we're consistent and that we can scale this, right? And ultimately, like, my success is in my team's success.
100%.
Like, I don't need. What does it matter if I'm fully booked every day, but my team's sitting there
that's not good.
Not making any money? What is the point?
And
like,
you're paying them.
There's no benefit to it, right? So it's like the more successful they are, then our brand is successful, and we can build something great where they can be with us forever, and we can create paths to whatever they want in their career.
And I love that about you as a boss. And I think that I said to Dom one day, we were talking, you weren't at the shop anymore. And I want to, this will bring a good spot for us to kind of come back to is like one thing I've noticed, and it makes a great entrepreneur, it makes a great leader, is I said, Dom, he goes, we were talking and I said something about like a shop one day. And I said, you know, the first person you're going to ask, right? He's like, who? He's like, Tyler. I said, think about it. I was like, that makes a good leader and a good boss right there. If I can go to my boss and say, this is what I want to do. I want to do what you did. And they're all for any support in every direction of that goal and that dream, that makes a great leader right there. That's because, you know, like if you're leading them right, if you're teaching them correctly, then one day they would want it, or else you're not doing it right. Unless you're not teaching them like you have the capability. Like you said, everybody has that gift. Yeah. But you got to look at it and you got to capitalize on it. So that's a beautiful thing, though, because I know that about you. Like, you know, one day you guys might have to, maybe you have to let go of one of the barbers and he goes and starts his own shop. I know you'd be nothing but supportive of him. Tell him exactly what the stuff you made mistakes on.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other side of the coin is, you know, whether or not they'll listen, but you always tell the next entrepreneur coming up, like, hey, try to get some sleep, try to eat right. It's going to matter in a month or two and you won't realize it. But hey, it's been really good having you on. So real quick before we end it, we're future plans for Haven. So I know you got a fourth chair now, hiring a barber, right? Looking for another barber.
Yep, trying to hire right now.
Okay.
Get fully staffed.
And then what about a shop maybe in the future? Another shop possibly?
Yeah, for sure. Is that
what we're thinking?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
There's a lot of big stuff in the works.
Cool.
It's gonna be, you know, I love that like the story started in Wilmington, but it's certainly not going to end here.
Love
you
that.
know, there's going to be a lot more, but I love that, like, no matter how big we get and no matter how far we scale to, like, that our kind of flagship and our roots are planted here. And that was something that was
you come from.
Really cool for me to always have. So
that I think is the coolest thing. I think you're in your 20s and you're a young entrepreneur in town, the town you grew up in. You got a successful, thriving business in town, man. Like, you know, you're young, you're a bachelor, you go to the gym, like you said, you stay in shape. Like, there's a lot about you to look up to, and that's why I wanted you on the show, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean that. Yeah, it's really good having you in town, and whenever I need anything with the kids, you're always involved. So can't wait to see the growth, and we're gonna have you on again once you make the next step. We'll see what happens.
Appreciate it.
So
Thank
thanks,
you.
Tyler.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you.